Hello, hello, welcome. So glad to have you all here today. Welcome to this live where we're gonna reveal the secret sauce to brain training. And as folks are just rolling in, so glad to have you as part of this Facebook group. We're really hoping to get people tons of results. Our goal is to have really, really high quality free material because there are millions and millions of people that need this work. And then, and for a percentage of you all that would like to have more help, we do have a group coaching program where we can help you there. But really, our intention is to get this really next generation of just amazing brain training processes out to the world. There's some that are out there that people might have heard of that have been around a while. And it turns out that science keeps rolling on and there's newer techniques and newer discoveries. And so we're very interested in always being at the leading edge of that and finding ways to make that actionable. How do we apply all of this amazing neuroscience that's coming out to get people out of suffering and into a life they love? And so that's what Wired for Wellness is all about. And that's what this Facebook group space is all about. And so I'm just so glad you're here. And if you do want to interact at all, I am going to be taking questions. You're welcome to drop that into the chat. Hopefully you've had a chance to check out the one of the two or both free courses that we have. We have one all about anxiety, covers anxiety, panic attacks, and some considerations around medication. When it comes to some of the anxiety meds that are out there. And then we have another program that's more broadly talking about how neural retraining can help people with a really broad variety of medical conditions that have a really strong stress component to them. And it's surprising how many there are and also how much better people can get just by regulating their nervous system. And we're fortunate in this program, we have Dr. Karen Curitin, who is a phenomenal naturopathic physician, as well as an acupuncturist. And she's just absolutely on the leading edge with this stuff and being able to put the two together. How can we really help the body heal by supporting what its nervous system healing needs are, as well as any of the physiological considerations are around handling infections, deficiencies, and other issues. And so, as you've been seeing, if you've been watching any of our YouTube videos or any of the posts here in Facebook, you can see a bunch more about what she's been sharing with that. But I wanted to take an opportunity today to sort of review some of what was covered in the free programs. And so, and if we don't have any questions, then, we'll leave it at that. I have a couple things I want to cover and we'll just wrap up. So if you do have questions, do please drop them in. If it was anything like anything really having to do with the program, what's possible, how to use a technique, and how to take it from there. So essentially what we're doing in memory, in this sort of neural retraining work, is we're helping the nervous system to create a new sort of baseline of calm, to be more regulated on an ongoing basis. And the way that we accomplish that is by teaching the nervous system to be in that state more and more of the time. So we have we have this very efficient brain that's designed to learn things and really put it into autopilot, which you could also call our subconscious. It's the part of the brain that does things automatically. We've learned something and it just sort of creates like a program that it runs. When you want to tie your shoelaces, you have a shoelace tying program that you run. You don't really have to think about doing it. When you learned how to do it, you had to think about it. Once you did it a few times, you learned, and it created this efficient program to go ahead and make that like an automatic. The same thing happens when you're walking down the street. You sort of unconsciously say hi, or whatever your style of interaction is. You have all these huge catalog of programs that we hold in our subconscious, and they just have what you might call a trigger, right? Or a start button. Something in the environment helps us start running those programs. And the thing is, if you're experiencing ongoing elevated levels of stress, chances are that you have some programs that are triggering stress responses that are going off automatically from triggers or indicators or program buttons in the environment. And they're just running unconsciously in the background on autopilot, which means that you're staying in elevated stress levels more often unconsciously. And staying in those stress levels over time starts sort of creating other issues in the body. So, so there's really a lot of benefit to taking the time to learn how to change this. And this might not be something that's entirely new to you. Maybe you've heard about this somewhere else. It's sort of the idea of conditioning. But it turns out that when it comes to these stress-related programs, they normally got installed by some sort of high-intensity event or a series of events that created that program in the brain. And so something was overwhelming, something intense happened, and that information got tagged by the system, by your brain, as something to really watch out for. It's like a survival tag. It's saying, look, if you see anything that's like this, let's get ready. And so it starts ramping you up to survive. Or maybe it puts you into freeze state. Maybe you've heard of the 3 survival states, which are fight, flight, and freeze. And each of those has their own flavor of reaction. So, and they're all stress states, right? They're survival strategies that we've got in our nervous system, and it's a good thing we have them. But when they're not functioning in balance with what we want, it can create a lot of problems. All right. And so let me just do something really quickly here. I haven't gone live for a little while. I just want to check in on on our Facebook to make sure that I'm doing this right and see if people are trying to interact using a bit of a different software. So I just want to make sure that if I can, well, we'll see. It's a bit of a learning curve. But all right. So wasn't able to see it, so I apologize if you're sending me comments. This thing is supposed to let me see what's coming through, but it's not letting me do that. Okay. So in order to go and change those high intensity sort of programs that run, what we need to do is we need to work with the way that our limbic system has created those tags, right? And instead of having a narrative conversation where we're using our prefrontal cortex and we're talking about it, we're thinking through it in a way that's very much about story, we want to go and use sort of like the language or the signaling system of the limbic system. And the limbic system is where all of our survival signals and our emotions, that's where that gets produced. It's sort of here, I keep pointing to sort of the midbrain. And the thing is, if you've ever tried to say, if you're feeling upset, why can't I just tell myself to calm down? Just talk myself into it. And maybe you can do a certain amount of that, but it's not very effective or efficient I remember thinking about that a long time ago, like, why can't I just do that? And the thing is, it's because they're different brain systems and they need to be communicated with in the way that they understand. And so this is a bit of why a lot of folks don't get the world's greatest results through narrative processes or talk therapy. So you can do a good bit of reframing, but if you have evidence in your brain that's unconscious, you have some sort of program or pattern or something in there that got installed by something that was very intense or scary or overwhelming, the brain is going to override what you're trying to say consciously and say, we're not going there. That's not safe. We have this tag, this survival tag in the limbic system that's saying, do not do that. And so you're going to say, try to white knuckle your way consciously to take action towards something that everything in you is saying not to do. And that's maybe the most productive or easeful or kind to yourself way to do things. But it's what people had thought was sort of the option, right? The suck it up option, the just do it anyway option. And so normally what happens with that, occasionally it works, but a lot of the time we fail at it. Maybe we can do it a little bit and then we fail, or we just, aren't able to do it. And so what we can do is learn how to use the signaling system of the limbic system. So that's what we're going to get into now. And that's a little bit of what you were hearing about in the free courses. We walked through all this stuff in the free courses too. So if you haven't done those and you're in the Facebook group, they're in the guides section. And you might also, if you opted in, be getting emails for those as well. So you can just take a look at your inbox. If you joined through our opt-in page, you'd be getting emails. So the way that we go about actually being able to take those survival tags off of information is by, it's sort of a 3-step process, right? We want to activate the neurons, activate the neurology that holds that information. So it might be like a memory. And the memory can only be encoded in a certain number of ways. It's about 6 ways. What you saw, what you heard, what you felt, what it smelled like, what it tastes like. And then words are a bit different than sounds. So, so there's only 6. And then there's that additional and the intensity it had around it. And so if we can go to whatever the event was, if it's a specific memory, and notice how much it bothers you, how intense is it? If you were going to guess and give it a rating, is it a 10? Like, oh my God, it's like, really, really intense. Or is it a 0 and it doesn't bother you at all? Or somewhere in between, so you can kind of get a sense for how intense it is. And then we want to shift our attention now that we've activated those neurons. And this is what we're talking through is a process called memory reconsolidation. It was actually discovered in 2009. And it's basically was this huge discovery in learning, like seeing how the brain updates and learns, and the fact that neurons and memories do get updated and change. And they actually saw the neurons move, and they were able to study and learn what that process was and what were the factors that initiated that process of changing. And so because we know we can change things, this is the way we do it with intense memories to help take that survival tag off. And when the survival tag is off, then this is now just information. It no longer is survival information that we're scanning for all the time unconsciously. It's just information that now we can integrate, just like we were learning anything. It's something that was not intense. And so we can do very different things with that information, and we're not constantly running stress response and the sort of reactive programming unconsciously and automatically. So then we're just less reactive. The stimulus or trigger could happen in the environment and we won't run the program anymore because the tag or the thing that was the sort of run button for the program is no longer there. So if you're dealing with anxiety, let's say, you had a specific issue with going to Costco or something like that, being in a large group of people for whatever reason, just thinking of walking in the door might be the trigger. You don't even have to be going in the door, just thinking of going there or having to drive there or something like that could be the thing that starts elevating, running the survival program, right? So if we're able to go back and resolve all of the ways that have that tag around the Costco anxiety, I bring up that example because we have a client that had that, and she had just really, really intense anxiety about going to Costco, and she doesn't have it anymore. And we were able to resolve it for her very quickly using this process. So anyway, let's say it's about going to Costco, the Costco anxiety, and so whatever it is that you think of, is it, you want to check with the whole processes of, is it getting ready to go to Costco? Is it who you have to bring with you to go to Costco? Is it the drive to Costco? Is it walking in the door at Costco? Is it, you check all the way through and you look, is there any intensity? Is it a 10? Is it a 5? Is it a 0? If it's a 0, you don't have to keep working with it because it doesn't bother you, at least in your head. If it's, a 3 or a 4, you should use one of the guided processes that are in the free courses. And it'll help you to accomplish taking that survival tag off. And then you just keep doing that process as you go along. And so if I think someone asked a question about a specific person being the trigger. So if a specific person is the trigger, what is it that happens? Is it in a certain setting? Is it when they say a certain thing? Is it just their presence? And so you can, figure out what it is that bothers you. Maybe it's many things. And you can just systematically give it a rating and put it through that one of the guided processes to help your brain sort of update that it's not an actual real threat. Unless it is an actual real threat, in which case, sometimes there is a person who is actually not someone that should be in your life. They are not dangerous, in which case you might decide it is a better idea not to be around them, but it would still be good for you to reduce the fear of seeing them or the anxiety that they might be around or things like that. But then also have other real world plans for how to keep yourself actually safe, So we are grounded in reality here. We know there are actual real risks and threats in this world. So we're not looking to be magical thinkers and just say, well, I'll just brain train it away and then I don't have to worry about it anymore. We want to reduce the worry, but also let the body know that we've taken care of business, right? So so there's definitely a practical and action-oriented side to these things. Like if you have a fear of walking down, dark streets, we can reduce the intensity of that, but also like, is that a smart thing to be doing? If you had something intense happening on a dark street, you might want to brain train it, but then also like, we also want to be aware of where we are and keep ourselves safe. Okay. So if we go back to that, let's say that Costco memory, right? So what have we been doing? We've been activating the neurology. We've been finding the different ways we know that it bothers us. So I'm just reading a comment. Hi, as I was asking in the group, how can I apply this brain rewiring approach to a particular situation like being anxious when driving on the highway after having had a quite stressful episode a few years ago, also through tunnels, etc.? Thanks. That's a fantastic question. I have to tell you, we get a lot of driving anxiety folks who have like full-blown panic attacks about it while they're driving, after they're driving, like avoiding driving. Some folks, are no longer able to, haven't been able to get on the road, and we get them back on the road. These processes work really, really well for that. So I'm so glad you're asking that question. And it doesn't allow me to see your name here. I think you have to actually like accept something with StreamYard. So whoever you are, I appreciate your question. So with driving on the highway, so there is your trigger, right? That's the thing that's going to run the anxious about driving program, right? So it's likely that something happened that initiated that. It's not always the case. Some people have just had an elevated period of time where there was just more stress in life, and then it showed up when they were driving as the thing that was really intense for them. But other folks have had a car accident or some sort of intense event that happened while driving, or and so it really depends what it is for you. But the basics are, you would start before you ever got anywhere near your car. You want us to do all of this stuff sitting safely, at home or someplace where you're not engaging the actual activity. And then you're going to go through this process of how do I know it bothers me? And you're going to go step by step, kind of go back to where it would start bothering you. If you were starting to think about getting in your car, you're still in the house, then you would take that 0 to 10. How intense is it? Note it down, and then take it to the brain training processes that are in the free programs. Use a feathering or a dance process, or any of the ones that are in there. There's a bunch of them, and you can reuse them. They'll get the job done. But essentially, what those processes are going to do is they're going to create a whole bunch of safety chemicals in your brain. They're going to make you feel relaxation, to feel peaceful, to feel like you're laughing, to feel something that isn't cortisol and adrenaline, which is normally what you're experiencing, right? When you're thinking about that stuff. So that's stress physiology chemistry, which is reinforcing to the limbic system that this is still dangerous. But what we're going to do is we're going to send signals of safety in this chemical way. We're going to create these great chemicals we can in our brain. Some folks are trying to use external or exogenous chemicals like ketamine and psychedelic therapy and MDMA, and mushrooms and things like that to help the brain do something different and create these signals of safety. We believe that we're very good at producing that ourselves. And so just thinking about something like, if something you really enjoy, maybe it's like petting your cat, or riding your bike down a mountain, or being at the beach, or, hugging your, best friend, or, just who knows what it is. Something that makes you feel really good. Laughing baby videos on YouTube, just things that make you feel good. And they create this chemistry, these signals of safety. So these chemicals are now in your brain. And guess what? These neurons that were activated by you sort of thinking about the trigger or the memory, the thing that was bothering you, noticing how it was bothering you, those are activated, and they've entered into a window of reconsolidation, a period of time where they're changeable. So what's happening now? This is changeable. It's in a window of changeability, window of reconsolidation. And now we're generating these nice safety chemicals, and those are coming in contact with the neurology, right? And so it's actually changing the neurology, those chemicals. So then we take a nice relaxing breath, and you'll shift your attention back from the process you were doing and notice, is it the same or is it different? Maybe it's less intense, and just check in. Maybe it's moved around. If it's like something like a pain or a symptom in the body, sometimes it moves, which is a really good indicator that it's not a physical issue. It's a nervous system issue. It wasn't, if my shoulder has been hurting and now it moved up here, then it wasn't my shoulder, was it? If the pain moved, the pain in your head, if it moved, it's something neurological. And so it's a stress response, and it's a survival stress response. And so these processes, you can sort of get a sense for, how these processes can help to change that. So, and that sort of relates to Rachel is saying, hi, can this process work for facial and head discomfort? I stay home a lot due to not wanting to panic outside. Got it. Yeah. So, it's a great point, because what you can notice is, and one of the things that happens in anxiety is we take sensations and sort of inputs from the environment, and we'll start to hyper focus in on, oh my gosh, I have this, I'm walking funny, or my face feels this discomfort, or I'm twitching. There's something about a sensation that comes up. My breathing's tight. And then we start elevating the intensity around it and adding more stress physiology to it. And now we're starting to ramp up. Don't do it. Take a nice relaxing breath. I don't want any of you ramping up right now. So just go ahead and take a nice relaxing breath. But did you notice it? If you start taking a sensation and focusing in on it, you can definitely make it more and more intense. And what happens with people who lead up into panic attacks is they take something that's been like that, and they've built up a bit of a thing where, instead of interrupting that and letting it dissipate, or just saying, oh, it's just a sensation, it's something that essentially we have like a full-blown freak out about. And that's another word for panic attack. It's a full-blown stress freak out where we just let it really take us over. We just let our stress physiology shoot up through the roof, and we sort of, kind of lose control. And it's not pleasant. It's probably something we'd rather not do. So, if panic is something you're dealing with, this memory reconsolidation process of continuing to help to teach your brain and your nervous system what is actually a threat, and helping it to learn that it is actually safe, is a game changer. And because it's so automatic and runs in the background, because we're actually making these changes at the neurological level, where the triggers hang out, right? Where the program run button is. If we can get rid of the program run button, or make it so that we don't respond to that sensation or the trigger with a stress physiology response, a survival response, if we can take that trigger off, then it's just information. And we don't have to have anxiety reactions or panic attacks anymore. I hope that this is making sense. Again, if you haven't watched through the 2 free courses, they're very comprehensive, and they have a bunch of actual processes to help you have this experience for yourself there. We designed them to get the job done. So we've had several people, just use the processes in there again and again for a while, and just keep reusing them, and they've gotten totally better. And so, I said it at the beginning of this call, there are millions of people suffering with this, and we would like to see this information get out there more and more. I know a lot of you might be newer to me and Dr. Curitin and Patty Norris. The 3 of us started Wired for Wellness, and we are going to continue to develop more and more of these free resources. And then we do have a premium group coaching program for people who would really like to have access to that. The same way that right now, if you wanted to learn how to eat healthy and exercise, there's a ton of free material out there that can help you do that. And then some people want to hire a personal trainer or nutritionist. to help them to, accomplish what they're doing. And so we don't see enough resources out there right now that cover this level of detail around the memory reconsolidation process. It is the newest neuroscience that's out there. It is the newest medicine that's out there. And it just takes a long time for that to make its way out into the common therapist's or doctor's office. And I think it's an average of 17 years, is what it takes for the new research to make its way into common practice. And so we really want to expedite that process. So if you haven't done the free programs, we are not holding back the secret sauce. It's all there. What I'm telling you now about memory reconsolidation is the work that we do. And so, and then I know some folks have been interested in doing some one-on-one sessions with us because we are still in the process of training up more coaches to use these processes. We only have so many hours available to do one-on-one work. And so one-on-one sessions are only available for folks who are inside of the paid program. But like I said, folks are getting results just using the free stuff. So, all right. So can this process work for facial and head discomfort? So let's take that example. So how do you know that you have facial or head discomfort? So there's some sort of sensation that you have. Now, if you hold your head forward, like it's an 8-pound bowling ball and you have terrible posture all day because you hold your head like this, yes, you're going to create muscle strain. Like if you held your arm out like this for, all day, your arm's going to get sore. So yes, that is a good way to produce discomfort. We live in a physical world of laws. And so, we need to be practical that way. Are you doing weird things? Are you like jamming your neck and doing, strange things? But if it's something that moves around ever, or, it's like sometimes it's here and sometimes it's here. And so, and its chances are that's neurologically based. You should also be able to reduce the intensity of physiological pain. Pain is produced in the nervous system. It's there to get our attention. So essentially you would notice how it's there. And then you would shift your attention over to something that feels good. Totally forget about it. If you need to write bingo in the air and hum, and maybe you want to haven or tap or something like that at the same time, take a nice relaxing breath. Basically, we're just helping your whole system to shift over, so you're not thinking about the facial discomfort, the sensation, or in the driving example, the thing that's bothering you, the way getting into the car is going to be scary. Whatever you're noticing, you notice the way it bothers you, and you're going to shift your attention over completely. And watch the Laughing Baby video, or remember that awesome feeling of the bike ride, or put on the process in one of the guided, the free guides, and let your brain get all those great safety chemicals, the serotonin and the dopamine and the oxytocin and the GABA, all that stuff. You're going to create it yourself. And now that's just washing over the neurology. So now you're going to go and shift your attention back over to the facial discomfort. Is it still there? Has it changed? Has it moved? Is it different? Is it the same? 0 out of 10. Give it a little rating for yourself. Or is it big or is it small? Just some way for you to be able to know what it is. If it's still there, maybe it's gone away. Some people, it goes away in the first time they do it. Is it still there? Is it still bothering you? All right, notice how it bothers you. How is it still bothering you? Just notice it and go ahead and shift your attention back over to something that's going to create that great safety chemical for you. Sweet little cat's paws. They're so soft. Their little heads. Oh, I have a friend who loves puppy beagles. He looks at a picture of puppy beagles or videos of puppy beagles. Have you seen these? They're the cutest thing ever. And so, so these puppy beagles make him feel really, he just starts smiling, right? Like he feels really good. All right. And he'll take a nice relaxing breath. And shift back over and notice, go back to check in. How is that facial discomfort doing? Is it still there? Is it different? Is it moved? What's it like? Still bother you? Maybe it's a 0. Maybe it's not. And you can keep doing this process and see if it's responding. And then often that'll get the job done. Sometimes there's other reasons why that's getting produced. And that's a little bit more advanced than I can get into in this, but I did want to start with really just hashing out the memory reconsolidation process. It is the most important. It's sort of like the foundational thing to understand in learning how to make changes in the limbic system. And then it's just a matter of figuring out what neurology needs to get activated and put through this process, right? And sometimes there's, other things that are in there that need to get addressed. And that's sort of the driver for why you have the physical discomfort. Maybe it's actually because there's this underlying, emotional issue. And it was showing up as facial discomfort, but really what it is you're stressed out about talking to your boss, if that's the example, right? But it's showing up as a migraine or facial discomfort or something like that. And so if that sort of comes up to you as like, oh, that's really what's going on, you can do a little inventory of what's really bothering me in my life and take it to that, so why is that so stressful? Can you bring the intensity of that down? So it's not always exactly super straightforward to, the physical sensation is what we need to address. Like I said, sometimes it's something else behind it. So we keep doing that. All right, let me read this. And if you want to say, give me any updates on if that's making sense to you. I can't see anyone's face, which is a wild thing to do. I can't see if anyone's nodding or confused or not. So if you're able to let me know in the chat if that's making sense or if you want more clarification, I'd love to do that. My name is Alice, the one with the 8, driving anxiety. Thank you for letting me know. Hey, yes, yeah, you asked the question earlier this week. I'm not sure how to enable that visibility thing. Sorry. Thanks a lot for your answer. So I should wait until I feel 0 anxiety when thinking about it from home before I go out and try to get on the highway again, I guess. Thanks again. All right. Yes. So driving anxiety, gosh, we probably need to add a whole new section of the guide for driving anxiety because it's just so common. We're getting a lot of people have this issue. So you're not alone in it. Well, if you need to get to work and you really need to get there and you just got to do it, you got to do it. But ideally, you would work on getting this down while you're not in the car. Yeah, while you're not in the car and you're in a safe place, we're going to work with all the things that are just held in your brain. I mean, if you notice, you're not actually even driving and you're stressed out. There's nothing actually threatening happening. You're not actually driving. So why are you so stressed out? Because we're producing it in our head, right? When you're actually driving, it's a relatively safe activity, sort of, right? You can go along and not have this intensity, and you maybe at some point before didn't have it. So, I would ask you, like, when did it start? And maybe you can answer me, like, was there a particular thing that happened that sort of kicked off the driving anxiety? This is not my mug. All right. Well, if you're typing that in, we'll see if you do. So I would recommend going back to the thing that happened if you had it. Okay, yes, I was driving on the highway when it was very foggy and had to stop suddenly. Okay, that's a great thing because it's a very clear singular event, which makes this very easy to retrain. So you would go and sort of start at the beginning of that incident, that memory, right? So you're driving along and you feel fine. There's no intensity, or maybe there is because it's foggy. So just check in. Is the fogginess bothering you right now? So you can even make a little list, like to go through this afterwards. So 0 to 10, the fogginess is bothering me. It bothers me 5. Okay. So do a process on the fogginess before you had to stop. That's later. And get that down. It's okay. I've probably driven in fog before. It was okay before. So now that, you check in leading up to when you had to stop, all the aspects, if there was any other stressor happening that was, involved, someone else is in the car with you, that was adding to the intensity. Maybe someone sitting next to you being like, I'm really scared of fog and talking to you about it. Who knows what it was, right? So you want to bring that down, right? Just check for what are all the things that might be in there. Was there anything in there that bothered you? And just keep bringing that down with this memory reconsolidation process. Notice how it bothered you. Shift over and do a process, or really generate those nice safety chemicals, signals of safety. Take a nice relaxing breath. Go check back in. Is it the same? Is it different? Has the intensity come down? And you can keep doing that process until the intensity is all the way down. And then you move to the next part of the memory. Oh, okay. So then there was the, when the stop suddenly had to happen. And so you can kind of go slowly through that. And if it's intense, push it away a bit or make it smaller, right? Like, we don't want to hang out in intensity. If this is something that's a really hard thing for you, it really, maybe you want to have someone that you feel really safe with you while you're doing it, and and just have them help make some fun with you. Be like, oh, okay, it's intense now. They can look at your face if you're really intense. And they say, okay, now we're going to watch baby laughing video. Now we're going to get up and dance. Now we're going to watch this process. Now I'm going to, I don't know, do something that feels really good. You can always use a friend or a partner if that's something that would feel good to you, right? We don't have to do this alone. We often feel a lot safer when we have people we trust around us. So it's very soothing to the nervous system to have that if you have those folks and you like it. You can sort of borrow their nervous system regulation resources, right? So, so do that and then keep going back and forth. And then, that thing with the actual, the stopping fast, maybe you get to the point where, because you survived it. Guess what? You're okay. It's all right. You're still here. Maybe you learned some things. Maybe you were like, I need to get different headlights or drive slower when it's foggy, or, something like that. I don't know. Or sometimes things just happen, but you're okay, and letting your nervous system know you are okay. You did survive it. There was maybe something to learn from it, or maybe not. And, it's okay. You're okay. And it's okay to drive. So just keep, sort of checking through that. And so now that you've sort of worked on that memory, sort of the thing that installed the survival program around driving, that intensity, that is the trigger, right? Like, that was the thing that said, we're always just going to be really hyper vigilant about driving now because we had this high intensity survival thing happen that, we want to make sure we survive in the future. And so it just associated anything to do with driving with that high intensity moment. So the fact that we've gone back and addressed the information that was in that memory that sort of created the program, and we've used our memory reconsolidation process to help our limbic system update it. We did survive. We are okay. We can learn some things. It's all right. We don't have to run the stress program anymore. We can we can integrate it. A lot of it was just too overwhelming at the time, and so we weren't able to integrate it. So we're going to help the limbic system integrate it. So now that original memory is better, is not bothering you anymore. The way we can test. You go back and you say, like, does that memory bother you anymore? And we actually look for no, not at all. Not, oh, I can deal with it if I just think this way, or I have a different story about it, or I'm a strong person so I can do this. It's when I think about it, it doesn't bother me. It's a very, very different thing. It's a little mind-blowing that we can do this. Normally, we think if something bothered us, that is part of the reality. It's part of the memory, the fact that it bothers us and that it will always bother us. And it turns out that memories are changeable, and the intensity that's connected to memories can be adjusted or let go entirely. I mean, we're talking about all kinds of really intense trauma, hardcore stuff. The brain doesn't have to hold on to that, but it needs help sometimes to be able to integrate it. And that's what this process does. So now that you've addressed that original memory, you might notice that when you go to even think about driving, that maybe that's a lot easier now. It could be that it's not something that is as much of an issue because the original imprint is, there's no intensity there anymore. If there is still intensity, then you'll do the same process, not in your car, at home, and you'll think about, okay, when I think about going out to my car, 0 to 10, is there any intensity? When I think about opening the door, is that okay? Okay, that's a 0. All right, get in the car. When I turn on the car, is that a 0 or is there intensity? And if there is, then you do a process, get those chemicals of safety going until it doesn't bother you. This is while you're just doing this all in your head. When I back up, is that okay? Is getting on the street okay? Is driving out towards the highway okay? Is the on-ramp onto the highway okay? Is being on the highway okay? Is going past the place where you had to stop suddenly okay? So we just look for all the little ways that there might still be information that needs to get integrated. Anything that we need to help the limbic system say, oh, we're all right, it's safe. We're going to update, take all those tags off, and integrate that information. So once you've gone through that whole process in your head and it's not bothering you, then you're going to say, is it okay for you to actually go and get in your car and go sit in it? And if that doesn't bother you, then that's great. And maybe, driving towards the highway, is that okay? All right. Maybe you need to pull over a few times and keep bringing it down. And then you get on the highway and maybe it bugs you a bit. Maybe it doesn't at all because you've already addressed it before. Often it doesn't. There might be some different aspect that you didn't think of, like, oh, I didn't think about, if it was at night, then it really bothers me. But it was clear it was fine during the day. Or if it's raining now, it still bothers me. Or this thing because of the fog, it's like, oh, it's foggy, that's still in there. So you can just, keep addressing it. But you don't want to white knuckle your way through it. And this is why. The whole point of this is to send signals of safety. So when we do, in the world of some of the other processes out there that are very common, they do this thing called exposure therapy, where essentially they're not using this limbic system signaling like the way we were talking about, where you're sending signals of safety. Their approach is you're going to sort of cope your way through being around the thing that is scary or anxiety producing, and kind of force yourself to do it. If it's like a spider, you're going to put it, there's a spider or a needle or something, there's a needle over there and then there's a needle here, and I need to get used to being around it. And the idea is like, you just keep developing evidence that it didn't, kill you or hurt you. But it's very much using this white knuckling, pushing through thing, like ethos or idea, right? Like, but the thing is, what kind of brain chemistry is that producing when you actually don't feel safe and you're pushing through and doing something that your body thinks is unsafe and doing it anyway? You're producing lots of stress physiology, stress chemistry. And so now those chemicals are going over your neurons. And so it's why it takes such a long time, why it doesn't work for a lot of people, why people give up on doing it, because it's super uncomfortable and it sucks. It really is not fun. Versus, that's why we say it's like, you can actually address all these intense memories or traumas or anxieties or things like that, phobias, in a way that, like, if you're not having fun, we're probably not doing it right. Like, it's really about shifting your attention over and having those signals of safety. You should be feeling good. That's what's going to generate the chemicals that are going to change the neurology, right? It's not pushing through. If you're pushing through, we're working against ourselves. We're not using the mechanism that we need to do what we need to do in the limbic system. So fun. So how's that doing for you, Alice? Do you feel like you have a plan of action? Do you have any more questions? Anyone else have anything that I can clarify? I hope this is clear. It's a different way of thinking. In some ways, it's so hard to believe, really, until you have your own experience. I had I had one client, and we shifted something that, was just, he was he was so angry several times a day. He was just going into like rage because of something that was happening with his ex-wife, or had happened with his ex-wife. And this had been going on for years. And we helped bring it all down to zero. It didn't bother him. I was like, can you make it bother you? Can you find something in there? And he was just like, no, I feel amazing. This is great. He's like, Tamara, even if this just lasts for a few hours, this is amazing. And I'm so, so glad. And I was just like, well, this is lasting. We've made neurological change. This isn't just going to come back, And he's like, oh, I don't know about that. And then so I had to keep checking him. I was like, well, in a week, let me know how it's going. And so a week goes by, and he's like, Tamara, this has been the best week. I've really been so relaxed. I haven't been having, it hasn't been bothering me. It still doesn't bother me, but and he still thought it was going to come back. And I'm like, all right, well, let's check again next week. And it took a month before he believed that it wasn't going to come back. Because we're just so used to, thinking in that old paradigm of how memory works and what it is. And it just, and how what intensity is, and what upset or trauma, or, it's like, we're so used to figuring out how to cope with what happened and the way that it makes us feel, instead of just going in there and changing what's there so that we can actually integrate the information, and then it's just not a thing. Yes, it's all right. So that's really great. All what you said. I hope it will work. It's amazing to think it could really work this way. It is amazing. And I see it all day, every day. These processes, it's like every day is a breakthrough. It's just like, this is going to be standard of care, hopefully not too far in the distant future. But in the meantime, we're going to do our best to get this out there. We are launching training programs to help therapists and other licensed professionals be able to integrate this work into their practices, because people need to get trained in this. And then also coaches, and also training coaches up from, being, not having any experience. So we need a lot more skilled practitioners that can do this work. There is absolutely a time and a place for one-on-one sessions when things are really, really intense. And I wish right now that we had the capacity to help everybody. But it's just Karen, Patty, and I, and and we only have so many hours available to offer the personal sessions. And so we're really focused on getting more people trained up to do this. And so in the meantime, please do keep us posted on how using the free program works. Comment here in the Facebook group. We'll be doing more lives. Come back and ask your specific questions. And that way, maybe at some point, if you're interested, we could do some session work live on camera in the group. If you're willing to do that, and that way we could do some one-on-one work with you. That would help a lot of people, so they could see it as well while you're getting the help. And so if you're interested in that, Alice, or anyone else, just you can either message us or drop a message in the group, and we'll set up a live call and get it done. It is it's so fun. So if there's a party that's like, oh, this is gonna be painful or scary or hard, you can brain train that too. Go ahead and interrupt that, shift your attention over to just feeling good. Don't hang out. You don't have to hang out in that fear, and just help your system feel safer. Whatever you can do to just, spend more and more % of your day feeling safe. It will help you regulate your nervous system. And then as it gets more and more used to that, you'll get all these other multipliers, right? So, and Dr. Curitin talks about it too. It's like, we burn through our minerals and vitamins and, faster when we're under stress. So then it's like a little harder to nourish ourselves even, so then we become depleted. So even getting regulated, it's like, we'll be able to, nourish ourselves better. We'll sleep better. We'll digest our food better. Our immunity will function better. And so all of these things, having our body working better, might you be less anxious if you were getting good sleep? If you had all the nutrition in your body that you needed, that would probably help too. All of these things are related to having a regulated nervous system. It is why Dr. Curitin closed down her thriving, weightless naturopathic practice. And she's absolutely, and she's so right. And so we see people all the time who their symptoms dramatically improve, even though the physiological issues are still resolving. Maybe, hormonal levels aren't, or like deficiency levels are still there. Hormonal levels aren't balanced and things like that. But because people are doing the regulation work, their symptoms are improving. And, or maybe it's something where they're, dealing with a, kind of a chronic infection, or they're dealing with mold toxicity, or they're dealing, all these different things that, she's an expert in helping people resolve, without having a more regulated nervous system. Often that is the key to getting better. It's very hard to fight off Lyme's or long COVID or some sort of chronic infection if your immune system is turned off because you're chronically in stress physiology. It just makes sense, right? And then it's just, how do we do it? How do we actually help our nervous system to heal and to be more regulated? And a lot of it is helping to address these automatic or subconscious programs that got installed when something more intense happened. And now our brain is constantly scanning for anything that resembles that high intensity incident and that got that tag. So what we do is we keep working on helping to change the neurology to take those tags off, help that information get integrated, and then we're just not as reactive. We don't just automatically go into stress physiology as much. So we are just spending more time regulated. That was a lot I just covered. It's a paradigm. It's like a whole different way of looking at the world. So if that all didn't just sink in right away, if it sank in right away, I'd be like very impressed with you. You should talk to me. But let's get you certified. But yeah, it's something that can take a while to shift and really understand and sink in and get like, oh, this is possible. But this is how I do it. It's building skill. We have to be very gentle with ourselves. And Alice, you're going to be back on the road and it's going to be fine and you're not going to be afraid anymore. I mean, dozens and dozens of people, like with the specific driving. Patty, Coach Patty actually had that specifically with driving. I don't know how many years ago it was, but and that resolved as well. Like she doesn't have any issue with driving anymore. But I think she had actual panic attacks while driving. It's common. You're not alone. So please keep us posted. Oh, great. You'll keep me posted. Please do. I really want you to get better. I want to know. I want to know you got it. And if not, let's make it happen. Let's get there together. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for coming to our first Facebook group live call. I think in the future, I'll probably have Dr. Curitin or Patty with me. And, hopefully this was super duper valuable and helpful for you. And if there's any way I can do something better for you, let me know. And thank you so much for giving me some of your time. Have a fantastic day.